So I'm going to talk about using Azure as a repository for Elastic Snapshots. So I'm going to go through the whole process of setting up the storage account and container in Azure, putting the snapshots in Azure, reverting the cluster back to a new cluster state, and then restoring the snapshot and seeing if we can get all of this data back. So right now it's showing there's about 142 megabytes of data in the cluster. What I'm interested in restoring is Filebeat. So right now I've set up Filebeat to take in Netflow logs. So the first thing that I did is I already took a backup of the VMs running the cluster. So, for Kibana, I have this backup. Same thing with the two Elasticsearch servers. Filebeat is just being used to take the logs and send it to Elasticsearch. The next thing, I already configured Filebeat to take in the Netflow logs. So what I'm going to do is start in Azure creating the storage account in the container. So I'm just going to search for storage accounts, then create a new storage account. And I'm going to create a new resource group for this. I'm just going to call it Elastic Backup. And then the storage account name, let's try Elastic Snapshots 123. No, that's already taken. Okay, let's do backup. Okay, so that one's not taken. And I'm just going to pick a region. And for redundancy, I'm just going to do the lowest cost option. Then go to review and create. And then create the storage account. And this might take a few minutes to do. Okay, it's finished. So I'll go to the resource. And the first thing I'm going to do is go to access keys. And I'm just going to copy the storage account name because we'll need that when setting up Elastic. And I'm just going to paste it in a text editor just to make sure there's no weird formatting or characters when I'm copying it over into the VM. But what I already have here is the first command to run, which is adding the Azure default account. And then the second command is going to be using the SAS token. So to set up an Azure repository, what you need is the Azure account. You can give it the key to your storage account, which would be right here. So it would be one of these two. But if you do this, then Elastic has access to the whole storage account. So because of that, I prefer to use the SAS token because then it only has access to the storage container with the permissions that I set in it. So now that I've taken note of the account, I'm going to go to containers and create the storage container. You can name this whatever you like. The default is elasticsearch-snapshots is the container that Elastic looks for when you set this up. So I'm just going to call this Elasticsearch-snapshots and go ahead and create the container. Okay, it's created, so I'm going to go into the container and then go to shared access tokens, and I'm going to go ahead and generate a new one, but I need to copy the permissions that they recommend. So read, write, list, and delete. So we have read, write, list, and delete. You'll need to adjust the expiration according to your requirements. This one is set up to expire tomorrow, but that's not an issue for me because this is a lab. So I'm going to go ahead and generate the SAS token, and I'm just going to copy the SAS token here and put it into the text editor so it's ready to use. Okay, so now that we've taken note of the storage account and the SAS token, we're ready to add the Azure Storage Account to the Elastic Keystore. So to do this, we'll have to go into each server, and each server will need to be rebooted so that it can see the changes to the Keystore. Okay, so let me get the text editor again, and what I'm going to do is copy this first command in here to add the storage account name, and then I'm just going to copy the name of the storage account. So press enter, and then over here paste as plain text, enter. So now it took that, and the next thing I'll do the same for the SAS token. Okay, so once that's done, Elasticsearch has to be restarted. And I'm going to do this for the second server too. And copy the SAS token now. Okay, and then we'll do a restart. Okay, and the first server is already done, so I'll just close out of that one. Okay, so that one is finished. So the next step is to add an Azure repository into Elastic. So I'm in stack management right now. I'm just going to go to Snapshot and Restore, and then go to register repository, and I'm going to select Azure, and next, oh actually I need to add a name, so I'm just going to call this backup. So next, and these ones will just use the default value. So the default value for container is the Elasticsearch dash snapshots. So I'm just going to go with that. Let's go register and then verify. Okay, and when you see this, it says connected. That's good. So both servers were able to connect to it. And when that happens, you're ready to use the repository. So the next thing I'm going to do is configure a snapshot policy for Filebeat. So you can see we don't have any snapshots yet. So I'm going to go to Policies, create a policy. And this one I'm just going to call Daily Filebeat Backup. And snapshots, well, snapshot name, I'll just go with what they have. So actually, let me type this in here so I don't. Okay, so the first part will just be Filebeat dash bracket now Okay, so I'll just use that format, and then it's going to automatically add the date onto there. Okay, and then you'd set a schedule, frequency, time of day. I'm not going to set this because I'm going to manually run the policy after this. So we go to next. This policy here is important. Right now it's set up to take in all data streams and indices. That's not really what I want to do. A lot of this, internal stuff, monitoring, things like that, at least are not important to me because they already come with the new cluster. The only one that I'm interested in is Filebeat. So I'm going to do deselect all, and then I'll just search for Filebeat, and then I'll select Filebeat. And then that's the only one that I'm going to back up into a snapshot. These other things I'm not going to make changes to. You just go next. Snapshot retention, this is optional. So depending on your retention policy, you can select any type of time period here. You could put 365 days, delete after 1 year. The minimum and maximum number of snapshots to store for the policy, you can set that. So I'm just going to go next and then create policy. Okay, and once the policy is created, you can manually run it by pressing this Run Now button. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And if I go to the snapshots page, it's going to show this thing spinning here. So that means that it's working right now. And depending on how much data you have, this is something that could take a while. You might want to make separate policies for different indices and, schedule them at different times. But if you go back to the storage container, and you can click refresh if nothing shows up, you'll see that Elasticsearch has already started storing the data here. So, if you go in indices, those are all the data for the indices. And and there wasn't a whole lot in here, so let me refresh and see if it's completed yet. Okay, yeah, so it is completed. It took 32 seconds to do that. So at this point, now that I have the snapshot already saved in Azure, I'm ready to revert this cluster back to a new state, and and try and bring that snapshot in and see if it has all the data again. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and shut down Filebeat, so we're not sending any more logs in there or creating anything, because if I leave this running with after reverting back to the previous cluster state, it's going to start bringing in logs, and I don't want to do that for this lab. Okay, so once that's finished, we're ready to restore from backup. So I'm just going to, I I'm going to do first is actually just shut everything down. Okay, so Kibana is shut down, and I'll go ahead and do a restore. Okay, so it finished, and then go ahead and start Kibana, and then do the same for Elasticsearch 1, restore. And do the same for Elasticsearch number 2. Okay, start, and then this one I need to start. Okay, so since these are back up, I'm going to go ahead and reload Kibana, and it should be in the new cluster state. So still starting up. Okay, there it is. So log in. Okay, and if I go into Discover, there's nothing there. And go Stack Management, and we're ready to repeat those steps and go ahead and add the repository in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is let me just remove the Filebeat data stream. There's nothing in there, that's just from when I was setting up Filebeat, but that might cause an issue when I restore. Okay, so I need to set up the storage account and the SAS token in the Elasticsearch server. So I'm going to do that. Okay, so Elasticsearch 1 is set up, so we go ahead and do restart. And move on to Elasticsearch number 2. Okay, so this one is ready to restart. Alright, and Elasticsearch 1 is finished. Okay, Elasticsearch 2 is finished. So let's go ahead and register the repository. So just call this one backup again, select Azure, register, and then verify repository. Okay, that's good, it's connected. So we should see the snapshot start appearing, and there it is. So, you know, it found all of the data that was in here, and that means that we're ready to restore the snapshot. So I'm going to click the restore button, and it will go through this menu. If you uncheck all data streams and indices, you can see it just captured the one that I selected, Filebeat, so I'll leave it that way. Okay, nothing to modify. Restore snapshot. And I mean, this could take a few minutes, or you know, it could take a long time depending on how big the snapshot is. But you can see it's completed now. It only took 1 second. There wasn't a whole lot in there. So what we can do is see if the data stream is there, still there, and we can go into Discover and see if the logs are there. So yeah, everything from that time period is starting to show up here. So that's how you can use Azure as a snapshot repository in Elastic.